Most commercial cleaning companies don't lose big contracts because they're too small of a company to go for that contract. They lose them because they look too risky to that big client. If you've ever walked a large facility and then thought they're gonna end up picking a bigger company anyway, well, this video is for you to show you how to compete for those big contracts. Because big commercial cleaning clients actually are not looking for the biggest commercial cleaning services to take care of them. They're looking for who is gonna be the safest choice. And so in this video, you're gonna get 10 things that any commercial cleaning company can do to look trustworthy, established, and ready to handle any large commercial contract, even before you have a big office or a big team or a huge client list. You can do these 10 things and win big. And real quick, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Pinkarina. I'm a 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO. We started from scratch and we're able to build our company on contracts of all kinds of sizes, including very large contracts that brought us well into the 7 figures. And on average, the amount of hours that we spent building our company was about 5 to 10 hours a week. And so we've been very blessed to be here. And now I help you scale your commercial cleaning company the way that I did. So if you want to walk into bigger opportunities with more confidence and control the situation and get taken seriously, then that's what you're going to get from these things that you can do. And if you skip over these and just gloss over them, you may continue to hear, well, we want another commercial cleaning service. They seemed a little bit more established. And you might continue to struggle growing your commercial cleaning company with smaller contracts. But the reality is everybody had to get their first big contract at some point, and then they continued to get more and stack them up from there. So that's gonna be what you're gonna get from this video. What can you do now to win consistently those big contracts, no matter what size you're at? You first need to recognize that it really doesn't matter to a client about how many employees you have. Because clients, sorry to break it to you, don't care about you, they care about themselves and how you can take care of them. And so what's really going on in your client's head is they're asking themselves, is this company easier or harder to use? And what you ultimately need to do in all of your processes, communications, and systems is make your company come across like it is the easiest one for them to use by saving them the most amount of time and having the clearest communication and path forward. Because as you heard me say it in the intro, to them, it's more about risk. And if some company is going to be harder to use, it means that that client has to allocate more time or attention or resources to manage that cleaning service, whereas one that's easier to use feels a little bit more hands-off, more valuable, and it establishes trust easier because they feel like they already know what they're doing or that service knows what they're doing. So it's ultimately a risk reduction perception, which is really what all these points are going to be all about. But your key mindset needs to be, how can I make sure that this client or prospect I'm talking with feels like our company is the easiest option? Number 2, you need to have professional communication. Look, I can't tell you how many times I've had someone share with me a proposal that they also received from someone else we were bidding against. And not to talk ourselves up, but it's easy to stand out whenever someone has misspelled very basic words in their email communications, or they've taken a long time to get back with that prospect, which doesn't make them feel like they're being taken very seriously. And those things are important, but one of the keys to professional communication is providing clarity in the form of next steps. So let me tell you what I mean. Let's take commercial cleaning company A and commercial cleaning company B. Commercial cleaning company A is gonna be our unprofessional example, and they may not say anything after doing a walkthrough. They may have said, yeah, we'll get you a quote. But then maybe the client is waiting a few days for that quote and they send an email to company A, which is a bad sign, by the way. If they send you an email asking for the quote, you need to do something to fix that. But they say, hey, when are we gonna get our quote? And then company A may reply, we'll get you the quote soon. Okay, that's very vague. I'm not sure what to expect. I had to reach out to you. It doesn't seem very professional, right? Whereas company B, either during the walkthrough at the end of it or right after the appointment, they send an email to the client or prospect saying, had a great walkthrough with you. We observed some very specific things. We're going to apply to your proposal. We're going to have that to you by end of business day tomorrow. Which company came across more professional? The walkthrough is so important, but it's everything around it and the professional communication with it. And that's after the walkthrough, your communication before the walkthrough and how you guide them down the paths towards success that they want, which is a clean building, and their expectations around that and how they're going to get there. That's going to set you apart professionally. Number 3, you must control the walkthrough. And by control, I mean taking this example of giving next steps and clarity and to going actually a little bit further with that and taking a client deeper into their pains and frustrations. Don't just visit the facility and be overwhelmed. It can be a lot to look at, but you need to think ahead of time about what are you going to need to see? What are you going to need to count? What's going to affect you and your operation, and turn that and reverse that into questions that you need to ask the client. And it doesn't need to be questions all about things that will help you, because ultimately you're there to help your client unpack their pain. But you of course want to get operational with some of your questions and logistical, which means how the job's going to be done, who needs to be doing what where, so you understand what the client is really wanting. And exerting control in the walkthrough looks like this. It's instead of just walking in to a bathroom and taking a measurement of the space and just leaving. Instead, you would actually ask them after measuring it, okay, what's been going on in here? How frequently is this space done? Tell me about the history of what's happened in the past that's been frustrating to you or your staff. What are your staff currently saying about this space? And then, of course, you can follow any of the rabbit trails and pains and unpack more from there. And then you can say, okay, we're good on this one. Show me what's next. Or let's go over here next. Do whatever you can to guide that walkthrough while still respecting their authority and their knowledge. And because they're in that space a lot more than you've been, right? They stay there and they work full time in there. But you still need to have some sort of expertise exhibited throughout that walkthrough. And the easiest way to do that is to just ask questions and get your client's story. And just to show you how important this is, Garner did a study and found that 17% of buyers, and buyers are typically a role in large companies, a lot of industrial and large office buildings and property management, and they only spent 17% of their buying time, their buying journey, in person with the vendors. So that's not even just 17% of their time with you, that's 17% of their time with everybody else combined that's gonna be walking that facility, and then the rest of their time is gonna be paperwork and communicating and all that professional stuff, right? But just because it's a lesser time doesn't mean that it's less important. It means that the power of that experience in person is so vital, because just that little bit is going to influence the rest. So look like an expert and control your walkthroughs. Number 4, you need to demonstrate documentation. This is something we've seen directly impact all of our quotes, not just our big ones, but whenever you are doing a walkthrough or you're presenting your proposal, be sure to mention a specific process and maybe even show them some sort of document with a step-by-step part that your staff does. And so, for example, let's say you're bidding on a large facility that has continually had staffing issues and they want you to help solve that. Well, what you can mention in there is that maybe you have a specific hiring process and you just name it never-ending staffing process. It's really cheesy, but you name it something, and then you can just do a really short explanation of this is our standard operating procedure or SOP for how we go through this process and vet our people and make sure that you are never short. You can even mention during the walkthrough or through any of the emails that they can look out for a client success packet that has everything they need to get their services set up simply and quickly so that you can start taking care of them. But those are just some examples, and if you're able to show them anything on how you actually operate internally, that just helps, because these large bureaucratic companies, they gotta be that way when they're that big, are going to have documentation themselves. They're going to respect that. And even if they're looking for a larger company and you're still a smaller company, you're gonna come across like a larger company showing that you have documentation. And really what it boils down to with documentation is not just that you come across like a large company, but if they were looking for that, you would come across like one. But it boils down to clarity reduces risk. And the fact that you've thought through processes and it looks like you know what you're doing, even if you just write it for the first time while bidding on it, which we did that when we first launched our company. We won some very large accounts by thinking, okay, they had the specific problem. We're just gonna name some sort of procedure, write it out for it, and create it right now. And that's exactly what you can do by demonstrating documentation and giving it to them. Number 5, on your proposal, you need to list an objective. I can't tell you how many proposals that I see that just list a price and here's how many times we're going to sweep them up, right? They're not hiring you just to sweep them off. They're hiring you for deeper reasons. So for example, with a medical office, I know that we quoted recently, we put the objective in there, obviously our scope and frequencies and price, but at the very top, we said this proposal, the entire objective of it is to free up the administrator and give patients nothing unclean to see. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, duh, that's like the purpose of the vast majority of cleaning proposals. And yeah, it is. But if you spell it out as that's what all this stuff below the line is supporting, then it's going to tie their understanding to that objective and have them fixed on that's what I want. They really don't want to see all these details. They just want to see that to make sure you know what you're doing, but they want to be buying a solution to pain and a solution that's valuable to them. And I can tell you this, that large companies are so focused on budgets and where they can save money and where they can cut some things, right? And we won a very large contract because our proposal's objective and everything below it demonstrated that we could reduce the amount of work hours for their head facility person, who was a very high wage person and needed to focus on other things. So we were saying essentially, look, we are able to take that burden off of his plate. And what they ended up doing was increasing their budget to bring us in because it still saved them money because they could reduce so much more costs somewhere else in their company. So list an objective in your proposals. Number 6 is what I'm going to call proof or presence. If you have any existing commercial cleaning clients right now, you must get reviews if possible and put them on a sheet, put them somewhere. Obviously, they go on to Google or somewhere else online, but put them somewhere that you can hand them to any prospects when you're doing walkthroughs or presenting your proposals. Now, if you haven't collected reviews from your clients just yet, what you can do is emphasize your presence. Or actually, I'm gonna add another one here. You can use story. So let me explain presence and story. Presence is simply you as the owner are there and you care. One of the best lines that we've used to win large contracts, especially when we were first starting out, was this. Look, to this other very large or maybe very established commercial cleaning company, you're a drop in the bucket. To me, you're everything. Your contract personally impacts me, and I'm the owner. I'm the highest that it goes in our company. So no one's gonna care for you like I will. And so you turn what would be viewed as possibly a weakness into a strength, and was possibly that large company or large commercial cleaning company's strength into a weakness for them. And that way it benefits your client and they're thinking in terms of, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I get more attention, more presence from the owner, the highest level in the company. And not only that, if you can take it to another level, that's why story is here. Story is, if you don't have all these proofs and testimonials or case studies and all that, you should definitely share any sort of case study. It doesn't have to be many, right? Just one of where maybe you came into an account or a situation and you turned it around. They were struggling with this thing beforehand. Then you came in, what did you do and how were the results after? And obviously, ideally, they're still a client. How are their results now? You can still, without any testimonials, provide contacts, like any references. They can talk to anybody. They can talk to someone you did one-time work for, or ideally any existing clients, and just make sure that you tie it to the relevance of them in their specific facility. For example, whenever we're asked to give references, we don't just give them, here's 3 references. We actually say, here's this specific reference and here's why this specific reference is relevant to you. They either have a similar amount of traffic or had a similar problem, or they're in your exact industry or something, and we call that out for each of those references and make it relevant to them. So they're thinking, wow, okay, even if I'm an industrial facility calling a charter school, then that charter school still has something in common with me that my company solved. So leverage any form of proof that you possibly can, whether it's actual proof, reviews, right, or your presence or stories that you can share. Number 7, this one is a biggie. Give a clear staffing plan. And since you've watched this far, I'm gonna give you a golden nugget with this. You can also say workloading plan. And these large companies, they appreciate the word workloading. Essentially just means, how are you gonna divide up the work? What is the staffing plan? Who's going to do what and when? And how are you going to bring new people in? So specifically what this would look like is you need to tell them What roles are going to be involved in helping support the cleaning of their facility beyond just the cleaners, right? Are they going to have any on-site account managers? Are there anyone like area managers or service coordinators or whatever specific management roles that you have in your company? How are they going to be involved? How much time? And then the actual cleaners. Which are you going to do zones? Are you going to do teams? Are they going to be broken out into specific schedules across the facilities? Are they going to follow what's already been going on? But you ultimately want to give them a clear picture of what services in their facility are going to look like. Now, building one of those can be a lot. That's why it is so valuable, because it's so powerful. So if you want any help with that, you want to win big accounts, check out the link down below where we can help you out. And number 8, a specific process you need to demonstrate to them is your QC process. QC being quality control. And by the way, using acronyms is a little hack, right? When we go to professional communication, a lot of these large companies like acronyms. So you can say, yeah, this is our QC process, and you can just abbreviate and just say, yeah, our quality control process. They get all giddy around that kind of stuff. But you just want to show them how this staff is held accountable to the standards that the client has. And then how you, as a cleaning service, are going to manage that and make sure they're actually doing the job. Because their worst nightmare is you win this big contract, you're excited to be taking home $200,000 a year profit from this single contract, and so you think you've won it, right? And then you sit back and relax and think it's $200,000 in passive income for yourself. Well, you still got to do some things, right? Management still has to be involved. We can't just set it and completely forget it. We need to make sure that everything's done right. Now, don't get me wrong, as an owner, you shouldn't have to be out there doing these things, but they want to make sure that you're just not going to totally leave them in the dark. And if you want another nugget, a special enhancement for this one, thanks again for sticking around this long, is if you can send them periodic reports. This is just simply you being accountable to them as management by forwarding them any of the QC information you have. Here's the inspection results we got during this period, and here's our plan to correct any deviations. Here's the latest copies of the photo verified checklist, right? So that way they just aren't getting your word for things and hoping you're doing the right thing, but you're actually giving them proof that the QC process is in action and everyone's being held accountable. Number 9, demonstrate your technology. For us, we won a contract that was about $300,000 a year, just simply because we showed them in the app that we use to manage our services, how we can see on a map where our cleaners are clocked in at or are not clocked in at when they should be there, or it's pending. Their issue was the cleaning service they previously had, the one we were replacing, that cleaning service didn't even know if their people showed up or not. So the client would contact the cleaning service and say, hey, John didn't show up today. What are you going to do? And the cleaning service would say, oh my gosh, like that completely surprised us. We had no idea. And then they would try to solve it, and it'd take them hours upon hours, and it just was a mess. Whereas what we showed them is we get notifications and we see that before it ever happens. And so we're on it before you even know it. And that was extremely appealing to that client. And what that boils down to is reducing risk, being easier to use, right? Because we demonstrated our technology. You don't have to just use that specific example, but how can you demonstrate, based on the pains they've shared with you from the walkthrough and the conversations, how the technology you have makes their life easier? And doing that in and of itself makes you seem far more established. And number 10, you absolutely should not skip this one. You must prepare. Before you engage in any conversations, before you do any walkthroughs, before you present any proposals, you must study that company. Look at their website. Look at their mission. What are they all about? Are there any issues that company's been facing in the news that comes up? Whenever you're talking with them, you want to come across like you get them. You can meet them where they're at and be a part of their solution, albeit oftentimes we are not the most direct solution to their problem, but we support the solutions to their problems. Because if we're not doing what we do, then they can't improve their company, because then they're having to spend resources and time and their staff gets frustrated. They need a clean place to work. You need to be able to speak that to their situation because you understand them and you've prepared for this conversation by knowing them. So Google the company, look them up in the news, look up any of the individuals you may be interacting with or whoever requested the quote, look up any of the facility related positions, look at their LinkedIn profiles, do everything you can to be ready for their conversation. Look, being small is not the problem, it's looking risky that's the problem. And when you do these 10 things inside of your commercial cleaning service, no matter what size you are at, you're gonna look far less risky to large clients. And if you want this put into action inside of your commercial cleaning company, then check out the links down below where we help you install the systems that make you valuable and clearly easier to use and less risky for those large commercial cleaning contracts and any commercial cleaning contracts that you have the opportunity for. And not only that, we help you get more commercial cleaning contracts. So if you want to install the systems and the processes into your commercial cleaning company to get on the path to 7 figures, again, check out the links down below. My name's Matt, your 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a blessing to help you, and share this video if you think it will help somebody else as well that may own a commercial cleaning company that might be your friend. Please like, subscribe, and until next time, keep building.